Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, let's take up tab 6, Senate Bill 1070, electrocardiograms for student athletes by Senator Simon. Senator, there's a delete all for the bill. Would you like to go directly to the delete all?
Can I do the bill? I would like to do the bill first.
Let's do the bill.
All right, fantastic.
You're recognized.
SB 1070 is a bill aimed at preventing sudden cardiac arrest in student athletes through early detection of heart conditions. Sudden cardiac arrest is the leading cause of death among young athletes, often due to undiagnosed cardiac issues. This bill aims to save lives by detecting these conditions early. Current state law mandates CPR-trained coaches and AEDs in schools, but physical exams alone are insufficient. ECG screenings are a non-invasive and low-cost procedure that can detect severe cardiac conditions that physical exams might miss. The bill proposes a gradual rollout of mandatory ECG screenings for student athletes starting in 2026, with opt-out options for parents based on religious or medical reasons. Madam Chair, that is the bill.
Are there questions on the bill? All right. There's a delete all amendment. We will take up amendment barcode 221350 by Senator Simon.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. This amendment does a few important things. I'm amending the bill to be titled the Second Chance Act in honor of Chance Gaynor, who was a senior at Port St. Joe High School when he tragically lost his life last year, less than a month after his 18th birthday. Chance was a student and a football player at Port St. Joe High School when he fell to the ground during a football game. After collapsing, Chance was rushed to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. Chance was a remarkable athlete and a beloved teammate and an overall exceptional young man. At the time of his death, he carried higher than a 4.0 grade point average and had recently taken a tour of Vanderbilt University to discuss the possibility of attending there for college. This amendment also requires the FHSA to establish a timeline on when students are required to receive EKGs or ECGs beginning in 2026 school year. There's an opt-out provision. The amendment also certifies that a parent of a student may object in writing to the students receiving an electrocardiogram on certain grounds. This amendment also requires the FHSA to develop a standard form to document any exceptions granted. That is the amendment.
Are there questions on the amendment? Okay. Are there any appearance forms for the amendment? Is there any debate on the amendment? Senator Simon, you're recognized to close in the amendment.
Waive close.
All in favor of the amendment say yay. Yay. All opposed say nay. The amendment is adopted. Are there questions on the bill as amended? Senator Berman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Chair Simon, I think this is a great idea. I think it's really important. But I just want to know who is responsible for paying for the cost of the electrocardiogram.
You're recognized.
Thank you, and thank you, Senator Berman, for that question. So I've had a couple conversations with the folks at Who We Play For, who currently are in 40 different school districts and have the ability to expand even greater. They were able to conduct these EKGs at no cost to the families. And they also receive state funds currently.
Follow up?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So you're representing that there will be nobody will have to pay for this and nobody will be charged for this? Is that what you're saying?
You're recognized.
No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is the cost is being covered by an organization called Who We Play For. They fundraise dollars as well as getting state dollars to conduct these studies, conduct these examinations.
Follow up, and they will do it in all 67 counties for all high school players?
You're recognized.
Thank you, and that's why there's this gradual rollout. Over the last 12 months, they've done over 35,000 ECGs for students already. They have the opportunity, or they have the capacity to expand even greater, and they're just willing to. they're willing to step up to the plate and do this in all 67 counties.
You
Yeah, just a
recognize
fo-
to continue.
Yeah, just one follow-up. I just, well, I'll say it during I'll use it for debate. I'll save it for debate. Thank you.
Any other questions on the bill as amended? Senator Davis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senator Simon, could you talk about the opt-out options that you briefly mentioned it? I'm curious as to how this is done here in your bill.
You're recognized.
And thank you for the question. So if they're opting out because of religious reasons, they wouldn't have to have an attorney draw up a documentation saying that they're opting out for religious reasons. If they are opting out for other reasons, for medical reasons, what they would have to have is they would have to have a doctor to sign off that this isn't a medically needed requirement for that student athlete.
Follow up?
No, that was it.
Any additional questions? Are there any appearance forms? Robert Sefik, speaking in support. And please, if you could correct your name for the record if I mispronounced that last name.
Madam Chair, you did quite well. Sefcek. Thank you. And thank you, members of this committee. Thank you, Senator Simon, for bringing this forward. My name is Bob Sefcek, as mentioned. I represent a couple organizations. One is a regional kids sports safety program in Jacksonville called the Jacksonville Sports Medicine Program. The other is a statewide sports safety organization and advocacy organization called FASMED, or the Florida Alliance for Sports Medicine. So I invite you all to let us be a resource for you as we continue through this bill. And it is a great bill because it's designed specifically to save lives. This is a proactive effort to save lives. And I realize it's the first time being introduced. We've visited it a few times in years past, and we're inviting collaboration because it's going to be an all hands on deck. We need all stakeholders involved in this, including our children's hospital organizations, our medical associations. And so with that, we need the confidence and support of this committee to keep working this through. I think it is a great opportunity for all of us to work together for the health and safety of our kids. While sudden cardiac arrest is the leading cause of sports-related death, believe it or not, and I'm a member of the Sports Medicine Advisory Committee of the FHSAA, I've heard it twice this year so far. 4 words: I did not know. I did not know that my child could die from exertional sickling. I did not know my child could die from exertional heat stroke. I did not know that sudden cardiac arrest was the leading cause of sports-related death. Very important words and very important challenge for us. Sadly, many parents will find out when that day happens and something catastrophic occurs. Just a handful of cases I can pull out from 2024. I was given a nice PowerPoint presentation. I had to stop. It was emotionally overwhelming looking at the names on that list. Senator Simon mentioned a name from his district. There was a young man in Palatka that died this year, a young man in South Florida that died this year. For every one child that dies, add 5 onto that weren't advertised in the local media. Right now, through state statute, the FHSAA recommends that students obtain a cardiac screening that may detect conditions. But currently, there's no expectations for them to actually follow through with that. It's 2025. We can do better. We've got so many resources out there. Organizations like Who We Play For are standing at the ready to help us through this bill, through this great bill, to help save lives. Currently, students answer 8 questions on their medical history form related to cardiac health and family medical history. I bet that most kids don't even read those questions before they check no next to the box. Not many of them know if their heart is racing any faster than the person next to them. They think that is perfectly normal. Again, a reason for cardiac arrest. Currently, 10 school districts across Florida proactively have created policies requiring ECG for student athletes. I would argue that it wasn't proactively. I would argue that it was reactively because something either happened in their district or their neighboring district to cause alert and say we need to do better. Again, with the help of organizations like Who We Play For, over 35,000 kids have been screened in the last 12 months. There's been a consistent rate of 2.5% positive findings. Just on that number alone, 875 kids tested positive and needed further cardiac follow-up. I can speak very specifically to a program that we did in Duval County in January of 2024. We screened 300 kids for free through Who We Play For. 4 of those kids had positive findings. So our percentage was a little bit less than 2%, but 4 kids had positive findings. 3 were surgical cases. 3 walked in that door that day not knowing they had a cardiac issue that could possibly end their life. 1 kid showed up with his dad. He came in with his paperwork and he said, "I'm here for the sports physical." I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. We're not doing sports physicals today. We're doing ECG screenings, cardiac screenings. Him and his dad turned to walk out the door. And I said, wait, do the screening while you're here. Take the information to your doctor. He was one of our surgical cases. So again, kids are walking around with things they just don't know that they have.
Thank you.
Can I add one closing point? So, this is heart-wrenching because 2 of the kids were from the same high school that tested and screened for surgical cases. A 3rd was on the basketball court that day. Same high school, collapsed and needed resuscitation. So thank you for your confidence on this bill. We're going to save lives.
Thank you. Charmaine Postel, Florida PTA, waves in support. Is there any debate on the bill as amended? Senator Berman.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'm supporting the bill. I think it's a great bill. I'm glad we have groups like Who We Play For. I do worry about the cost a little bit. In the event that they don't follow through, it will fall on either the parent or the health provider. But I do think it's necessary, so I will be supporting the bill today.
Any other debate? Senator Osgood.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator Simon, for bringing this bill. This bill really impacted me. In 1982, my cousin George Wade died in basketball practice at South Plantation High School. If you go in the gym, there's a jersey up on the wall, and it was at a very interesting time in his life. He was 6'7". He had spent that summer with Patrick Ewing, and he had actually gotten to a place where he could beat me playing basketball. And he went to basketball practice and fell on the court, and he died. And I remember getting that phone call. I was in another high school on my way to a football game and, had been heavily indulging in community medicine. And I remember getting to the hospital and just kind of freaking out. Some of y'all will get that on the way home. And finding out that he had these heart problems, and then finding out that my family had a history of heart problems. It was the first time my grandmother told us the story that how 4 of her siblings had died before we were born with heart problems. And when we think about heart disease and heart attacks, before we didn't think about young people, because when we're young, we are supposed to be strong and vibrant, and we don't know that these things are going on. So I think that this is a good safety mechanism for our kids. I appreciate this organization and what you do. There will be a lot of poor kids that are playing sports that can't have these screenings and can't pay for these screenings. So I'm so glad that this very nice gentleman came and spoke on record on the Florida channel and committed to getting this done. And Senator Simon, I believe in you. I know you connected to a lot of those rich football guys. So I am really grateful for this bill and how it would help save lives, especially in communities that lead in a lot of the health disparities. We don't want kids, falling dead when they're doing something, that they love. My cousin's life was just gone. It was just over. And we had no idea that he had this heart problem. So thank you.
Any other members in debate? Senator, you're welcome to close.
Thank you, Chair Claudia. I will try and be brief, but I have to say this because I never want him to be forgotten. February 26, 2001, I was home for the off season, and I walked in over at FSU at about 6 o'clock in the morning for workouts. And when I was walking into the Moore Athletic Center, EMS was coming out of the Moore Athletic Center with Devon Darling. And Devon's twin brother, which was on that team, grabbed me along with the team chaplain, Clint Purvis, and he said, "Corey, I need you to come with us." And for the next several hours, we spent in the emergency room praying with the family and praying over Devon's body as he passed away. Devard, his twin brother, is still a great friend. And he's been able to pick up the pieces, and he lives out in Seattle. But there's never a time that we forget about his brother. And so this bill is not only for Chance Gaynor, but it's for the hundreds of young men and women that have lost their lives doing the thing that they love to do the most. And that's why this bill is so pivotal. And so I ask for your favorable support.
Speaker, please call the roll on CS for SB 1070.
Senator Berman. Senator Burgess. Senator Collins. Senator Davis. Senator Gates. Senator Osgood. Senator Yarborough. Senator Simon.
Yes.
Chair Claudia.
Yes, by your vote, CS for SB 1070 is reported favorably. Congratulations, Mr. Chair.